there's some sort of a creature lurking back in the dark.
Part human, part serpent.
There are many stories of people encountering lizard men or snake people.
Could the ancient legends describing snake-like gods really be true?
There have always been talk about a reptilian race, whether it's angelic or extraterrestrial.
Could they still be among us, hiding in plain sight?
Serpent people are seen coming out of these tunnels, right?
Yes.
And if so, what is their agenda?
Perhaps they're awaiting a time to arise, to take control of humanity.
There is a doorway in the universe. Beyond it is the promise of truth. It demands we question everything we have ever been taught. The evidence is all around us. The future is right before our eyes. We are not alone. We have never been. Bethesda, Maryland, 1960. American neurobiologist Paul MacLean proposes a revolutionary model of human brain anatomy called the triune brain model. It distinguishes evolutionary remnants of what MacLean refers to as the reptilian brain.
Paul MacLean was a noted neurobiologist who came up with a model called the triune brain, three-part brain. One part of the brain was reptilian, one mammalian, and one primate. Distinct areas of the brain with different functions. The reptilian was particularly important. MacLean suggested this was earlier in evolution, perhaps the first brain, and had more primal functions, fear, rage.
The idea ignites a firestorm of public interest, putting into question conventional theories about human evolution.
This was in the 1960s, and the triune brain captured the imagination of the intellectual class. Even Carl Sagan commented on it.
In 2018, reptile neuroscientist Guy Laurent and his team at the Max Planck Institute published a landmark study in the journal Science, re-examining the idea of a reptilian component to the brain.
Guy Laurent challenged MacLean's model and found the brain. It is not so tidy, the locations are not so clear, but he also found there was similarity in the chemical function of the reptile brain and the human brain. That was unexpected.
Evolutionary biologists have long proposed that many human traits, including the amniotic birth sac, the layering system of our skin, and even our hearing, can be traced back to a common reptilian ancestor.
Many of our features, like our skin, our teeth, our hair, our nails, as things with backbones, in sort of the grand evolutionary scheme of things, were relatively closely related to modern reptiles.
Is it possible that the most significant advancements in human development didn't evolve from primates, as was proposed by Charles Darwin, but from reptiles?
Humans and reptiles share a lot of traits. For example, when we're in the womb, we actually have a tail. And the tail disappears, and it becomes the end of our vertebrae down by the bottom of our back. Some people are born, and they're actually born with these tails intact.
But while conventional science appears confounded by the possibility of mankind having a reptilian ancestry, as far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, such a profound notion is not a mystery, but a confirmation. And they suggest that this process is documented in the various creation stories found in ancient cultures throughout the world.
The basic tenet of the ancient astronaut theory is manipulation artificially of genetic material. We have a fossil record. There is no doubt in my mind that there are hominid ancestors before Homo sapiens sapiens made it. But in my opinion, The missing link has not been found because the missing link is the extraterrestrial intervention of our genetic makeup.
This fits perfectly with ancient creation mythologies. That is, that reptilian beings came to Earth and manipulated human DNA and made us in...
According to many ancient astronaut theorists, extraterrestrials manipulated the genetic makeup of existing primates on Earth to create what are considered modern-day humans. It is this genetic manipulation that helps to explain mankind's unique intelligence and why humans are different from other animals in their use of music, language, poetry, and art as a means of expressing themselves.
One of the key figures written about on the ancient Sumerian tablets is Enki, who they labeled the god of smithcraft and alchemy, and also suggest as a figure who knew the secrets of human DNA, for they credit him with the transformation or fashioning of the human body. Very interestingly, Enki is portrayed as a half-human, half-serpent being. He's referred to as a serpentine god, a reptilian being.
Stories of reptilians appear in many different cultures. In the Vedic culture, we have the stories of the Nagas. We have stories of reptilians, of course, in the Garden of Eden. We have stories of reptilians in the Mesoamerican cultures like the Incas and the Mayans.
Divine serpents are unusually from India, China, Japan, and in the Americas, both South America and Central America.
Different cultures refer to reptilian beings as beings that were helping humanity acquire technologies at a point in our evolution when we were really starting out.
In early China, the founders were considered to have been semi-divine and in some cases fully divine beings. Very often they were half snake and half human.
The ancient Egyptian god Sobek is a crocodile-like deity who is credited by the ancient Egyptians with creating the world. In portrayals at the temples dedicated to him, he's portrayed as a human with the head of a crocodile who emerged from the original waters of creation to create humanity.
Is it possible that the many ancient stories of human beings created by serpent-like gods are inspired by actual events? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and point to archaeological evidence that supports this very idea. In 1923, British archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley excavated one of the oldest agricultural communities in the world. The Sumerian people worshiped the serpent god Enki. Among the remains, he discovered some unusual clay artifacts, some dating as far back as 4000 BC.
One of the most amazing discoveries were the figurines that were uncovered. They were these humanoid figures with, for all intents and purposes, heads of reptiles. They look like snake people. And you even have a motif where this person is holding and breastfeeding a humanoid baby. So, are they trying to show to us that these are perhaps the creator gods? And if you look at Enki, in some of the depictions of him, you can see him with scaly skin.
All theories abound as to what these statues represent, but to me, they represent possibly Sumerian gods, the Anunnaki. Enki, too, shows these characteristics. We have to wonder if this isn't a god that wasn't visiting just ancient Sumer, but other cultures around the world as well.
Do the strange statues unearthed in the city of Ur represent extraterrestrials that came to Earth in the distant past? And if so, could this provide fertile DNA in their genetic manipulation of what is now the human race? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that further evidence can be found not only by excavating ancient sites like the city of Ur, but by looking deep beneath the Earth and at a place located thousands of miles away. Vietnam, Phra Nac Bang National Park. Located deep within the Southeast Asian jungles, is the world's largest cave system, the Sundong Cave.
It's 3 million years old, 650 feet high, 550 feet wide, and extends in an astounding 3 miles into the Earth. It actually has its own ecosystem with a jungle and even a lake inside of it.
When the cave was first discovered, there was a Vietnamese logger who was doing illegal logging in the area. He discovered the cave and encountered some sort of a creature that looked like a dragon humanoid being.
Since the site was opened to the public in 2013, there have been multiple eyewitnesses and around the area. According to UFO investigators, the Sundong reports are just the latest in the increasing number of reptoid sightings in remote areas with known cave systems.
There are many stories of people encountering lizard men or snake people who might be in caves or who might be near a cave on the surface just walking around. And those unfortunate enough to stumble across these reptilians are terrified because the reptilians can be very aggressive.
Is it possible that the Sundong Caves are home to a race of reptile beings living beneath our feet? As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, such a bizarre notion is entirely possible. In fact, encounters with these creatures have become so common that the UFO community now has a name for them: the reptilians.
Reptilian humanoids or reptoids are described as being beings that are about 7 to 8 feet tall. They have a humanoid structure. Their skin is either beaded like a lizard or either scaled like a snake.
In addition to Southeast Asia, another location where reptilian sightings are high in the Andes Mountains. According to the stories of the Inca and the even more ancient cultures that preceded them, a race of reptilian beings once inhabited this land. They even built some of the massive stone structures that still exist here today. In April 2019, ancient astronaut theorist David Hatcher Childress and researcher Hugh Newman traveled to Cusco to investigate a possible connection between the ancient stories of reptilians and sightings of these creatures that have been reported in the last few years. Joining them as their guide is Jorge Luis Delgado, an expert on the native Andean civilizations.
You know, Peru in general is just so full of mystery. To me, it's really the land of the unexplained and adventure. I never get tired of coming here, and there's always something new to see, some new incredible mystery to find.
No, I agree. I mean, not only you've got the megalithic temples, you've got Machu Picchu, Cusco and other sites, you've got Nazca, you've got all these mysterious underground tunnels that stretch across the country, and all these amazing myths and legends relating to these serpent gods. So
we are going to one of the most important temples with the giant stones, we can say, and the name of that place is Sacsayhuaman.
The sprawling fortress of Sacsayhuaman covers more than 11 square miles and is filled with some of the most perplexing megalithic constructions in the world.
They're all unique. Each one is unique, but so perfectly cut and fitted together. It's always astonishing to see it.
These ancient walls are built with unusually shaped stone blocks, often weighing thousands of pounds. They are cut so precisely they fit together without the need of mortar. Mainstream historians date the megalithic fortress to the 12th century AD and credit its construction to a pre-Incan civilization called the Quilchi. However, a growing body of evidence suggests that the structures may actually predate the Quilchi and belong to an even older civilization. A civilization that, according to ancient astronaut theorists, may have been not entirely human.
oh wow, look at this.
All right, so
this is the head you can see.
So this is a serpent. This is the head of the serpent here.
Goes around.
And how far does it go?
Yeah, just behind this wall.
And can you see the tail on it?
So you're saying that the builders are purposely putting a serpent into the walls here?
Yes, to remember that as you learn from the serpent, you can have access to the ancestors. You access to the wisdom.
But is it the serpent people who are building this? Are they showing that we are the serpent people and we are the builders?
That's one of the theories.
The stonework serpent is just one of many found embedded within the constructions of the walls around Cusco. Might these depictions suggest a connection at the megalithic site with snake-like beings? Incredibly, ancient megalithic walls that are nearly identical to those in Peru have been discovered in nearly every part of the globe. The ancient ruins of Thera in Greece, the Valley Temple in Egypt, the Gympie Pyramid in Australia, Ahu'vanapu on Easter Island. Is it possible that these massive stone walls and others like them all share a common architect?
All over the world, there are traditions of the slick stonemasons, and I believe this is where this high knowledge, this megalithic construction emerged from and then spread around the world.
Throughout Peru and the Andes, there are many, many legends of tunnels, underground chambers, and the Peruvians themselves believe that this underground tunnel system has something to do with these serpent deities, which they call the Amaru there.
So this is the entrance. Look.
Oh, wow. Look at
carvings.
that.
In this place, we have this main entrance, and then there is many other tunnels. It's very tricky because people can be confused and they can get lost here. So if you don't have fear, we can go inside.
Wow, look at these high ceilings here.
Yeah.
There's another shelf. Watch your step right here. Here's another side tunnel right there.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. It's been carved out as well, hasn't it?
Looks like, yeah. Do you think this is one of the tunnels, this underground city of the Amarus?
Yes. There is a legend saying that under Sacsayhuaman, which is connected with this place, it's very close to Sacsayhuaman, there is like a city. One of the legends says the masters who live in this inner world are the ones who built these amazing megalithic constructions.
Sometimes people are seen coming out of these tunnels, right? And I mean, you're saying spirits, but also people as well, right?
Yeah, when we are talking this other kind of people, you know, the kind of people is not like the actual humanity. It's a different kind of race.
Do they have a serpent-like appearance? They look like serpents?
Yes, it has a elongated heads. It has a different kind of eyes. It's like alien eye.
Is it possible that a race of reptilian humanoids still exists somewhere deep underground? But if so, why haven't they made their presence known? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that according to sacred texts, the answer is clear. It is because they were once banished from the faith. Southern India. In the province of Kerala stands the Manasala Temple. Within this compound are more than 30,000 stone snake idols and images. The temple is dedicated to Lord Nagaraja, the king of the Naga, who, according to local legend, still resides at the temple today. In the Hindu tradition, the Naga are semi-divine beings, half human and half cobra.
The Nagas are often depicted as either snakes, cobras primarily, or half human and half reptilian beings. Usually the lower part of the body will be that of a snake and the upper part will be that of a human. But they're closely associated with these subterranean underground cities that are in many ways parallel worlds to the world above ground. They populate these subterranean realms in very large numbers.
According to Hindu mythology, the Naga were driven underground by the god Vishnu. Curiously, Hebrew texts, numerous biblical accounts suggest that although Adam and Eve are the first humans created by God, they were not the first to dwell upon the earth.
The Adamic race, as recorded in the Bible, was not the first race on earth. There were pre-Adamic civilizations. The pre-Adamic civilizations has a history which we do not know.
A race that walked the earth before Adam and Eve? Might this be the reptilian-like beings mentioned in ancient texts? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that the serpent in the Garden of Eden may be the key to solving the mystery.
There have always been talk about a reptilian race, whether it's angelic or extraterrestrial. Most people will look towards the example in Genesis with the serpent. Ancient legend tells us that the serpent in the Garden of Eden was actually a humanoid form. It stood erect, had arms, and had legs. Clearly it spoke, as we know from biblical record.
According to the book of Genesis, this reptilian figure's interfere God.
Genesis chapter 1, verse 2 states that the world was in chaos. It indicates to us, very possibly, a pre-Adamic war amongst civilizations. We find echoes of this in literature, both in our Judaic traditions, as well as in literature from around the world. I don't think we should be so quick to dismiss these things in light of archaeological discoveries.
In the story of the serpent being punished, we seem to have literary evidence of an extraterrestrial battle or war going on.
An extraterrestrial battle? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that not only did such a war occur, but physical evidence of this can be found across the globe. In Cusco, Peru, local Andean expert and guide Jorge Delgado is taking David Childress and Hugh Newman to one of the most curious sites in the city.
So look at this rock. Wow. The shape, this cut, some steps going in. But steps, how you will use these steps? Huh? It seems that the stone is upside down.
That is incredible.
You see? And look in this other side.
Yeah.
All these cuts in the rock.
Inexplicably, this megalith in 80 degrees. Legend says it was displaced during a great cataclysm.
So it is one of the biggest mysteries. For some people, this is an evidence of the cataclysm. It happened once.
That's incredible.
Hugh, have you seen evidence of cataclysms like this in some of your journeys?
Well, I mean, at Tiwanaku and Pumapunku, it looks like a tidal wave has hit the site from the lake. We have the vitrified forts in Scotland, for instance, which show extreme heating, like some kind of solar flare.
And the Hittite cities in Turkey and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Places where it looks like some missile or some giant explosion has just blown up these megalithic towers and walls.
Missiles? Gigantic explosions? Might this be physical evidence of a devastating war fought between groups of extraterrestrials? Stories of ancient battles between supernatural beings can be found in sacred texts throughout the world. In Greek mythology, there are destructive battles between Zeus and Typhon, a monster described as having coiled serpent legs. In battles between the sun god Ra and Apep, the serpent deity of the underworld. Curiously, in each of these accounts, the losing party is represented by a serpent or dragon.
In the stories of the battles between the gods, we learn of a battle between extraterrestrial forces, some described as reptilian. What happened to those reptilian beings? Well, they're banished to the interior of the earth.
You're saying there's extraterrestrial races, and this stone is evidence of this extraterrestrial war and some cataclysm.
Could be.
Happening.
It is the time when everything is upside down. It's chaos.
Okay, this
it's
upside
war.
down, the war, this cataclysm.
Exactly. It was a period of time, too much chaos, so some of these nations, they went to live in the inner world.
If an ancient extraterrestrial war took place on Earth, what was it fought over? Some ancient astronaut theorists suggest the participants may have had conflicting agendas for humanity, and that the ultimate outcome has not yet been determined. Arizona, February 2018. Thousands descend on this small desert community to attend the 27th Annual International UFO Congress. The event offers UFO researchers an opportunity to not only share the latest developments in the field, but also to hear from people who believe they have come into contact with extraterrestrials. Over the course of the 5-day event, attendees describe encounters with alien beings that take a variety of physical forms.
There seem to be 3 categories of organic alien beings that have been interacting with humanity. You have your reptilian types, you have what we describe as the Nordics, and then you have the Greys. These types of descriptions appear over and over again in various mythic and historical traditions.
Do the accounts of modern-day encounters with extraterrestrials support the notion that the reptilians are just one of numerous alien races that have been influencing events on Earth dating back thousands of years? And if so, do they each have their own agenda for humankind?
Clearly, what we are being told here is that in the ancient times, there was a battle for control over Earth.
Ancient astronaut theorists often think that there were several kinds of extraterrestrials who were coming to the planet and fighting wars over which extraterrestrial race would nurture humans and bring them along to the point where they are now.
The idea that there's been warring factions of ETs trying to have control over the human race or the world in general goes way into the past. We have to wonder if they weren't all doing genetic experimentation.
If human DNA was manipulated by extraterrestrials, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, might this have been done by various alien races?
A number of abductees have claimed that they've been subjected to genetic experiments by reptilian aliens who are looking at them and their DNA for ongoing research of creating, say, a future human.
It seems reasonable to assume that if we, human beings, are now experimenting with animals, doing genetic experiments, that if we have a higher culture to us scientifically, an older culture, they may have been drawing us in as their experimental stock. So as an actual zoo, in other words, could we have other alien beings always coming down to Earth because Earth is their science workshop?
As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, a growing body of evidence suggests not only that multiple races of extraterrestrials have a presence on the Earth, but that there may be government officials who are aware of them.
In December 1999, a man was retiring from the Defense Intelligence Agency and told me his job for 23 years was to monitor and analyze competing extraterrestrial territorial conflicts on planet Earth. The DIA guy said, our government has proof that 3 competing extraterrestrial civilizations have been mixing and matching genes on this planet, using this as a laboratory for at least 270 million years.
The human race is not a pure human species. It is part reptilian, it is part other extraterrestrial, I believe it started with a group of the reptilian-type beings that began this experiment. With time, other groups of non-human extraterrestrial beings wanted to also participate in this experiment. With time, those different factions started to not see eye to eye. That is the reason why we hear about stories where there's wars in the sky.
There are those that believe that the reptilian beings were banished to an interior part of the Earth, and that perhaps they were awaiting a time such as today for them to once again arise to take control of humanity.
If reptilian extraterrestrials were responsible for the creation of the first humans and were later forced to retreat beneath the Earth by other alien races, will they continue to remain in hiding? Or, based on the growing number of recent sightings, are they preparing to re-emerge? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining a secret underground Air Force base where some have reported encounters with reptilians. This unassuming town has been home to the Hickory Apache Indian tribe for over 6 centuries. Hickory Apache folklore is filled with stories of interactions with star people, including lizard and ant-men they describe as living underground.
To them, those star people are as active and interactive with the planet now as they ever have been. It was Western civilization that ran by and buried the whole issue of extraterrestrials and reptiles as mythological. But it is the Hickory Apaches in Dulce who will also tell you that they know that there are some type of beings that are underground Dulce, and that the keys are Mount Archuleta and Archuleta Mesa. And below those two, there are deep underground bases that have been operated by some form of reptilian-related being for centuries.
According to government insiders, located near the secret subterranean military base known as the Dulce Air Force Base. The base is rumored to extend 7 levels underground, with the lowest levels occupied by extraterrestrial species. Whistleblower Phil Schneider claimed to have worked on the construction of these deep underground military bases for the U.S. government.
Phil Schneider was a very interesting geologist used by the U.S. government to do excavations of large areas under military contract, where they were essentially going to be building large caverns and connecting underground passageways.
On May 8, 1995, Schneider gave a presentation in Post Falls, Idaho, and claimed he was attacked by extraterrestrials deep underground.
I was involved in 1979 in a horrendous firefight with alien-human type, whatever you want to call them. And I was one of the survivors. 66 Secret Service agents, FBI and the like, Black Berets died in that firefight.
According to Phil, at the time of his encounter, his team had been contracted to create an addition to the existing Dulce underground base and using explosives to create caverns. When they encountered numerous gray and reptilian aliens.
Basically what had occurred was that we surprised a whole under-mountain base of existing aliens, and later I was to find out that we are not the highest on the food chain.
Phil Schneider later described learning about genetic experiments conducted by the same extraterrestrial beings he encountered at Dulce Air Force Base. But sadly, he would never get the chance to provide further information. just 8 months after his presentation in Post Falls. Philip Schneider was found dead in his apartment with rubber tubing wrapped around his neck. Those who knew him best were shocked when his death was ruled a suicide, and many insisted this was a cover story for an assassination.
Part of what I'm going to tell you is going to be very shocking.
If people had learned of what Phil Schneider was revealing, they would have understood that there had been agreements reached between these extraterrestrial civilizations and that there were many individuals that were abducted and being subjected to all kinds of human experimentation at the Dulce base.
Did Phil Schneider encounter the same reptilian extraterrestrials that the Inca credited with creating underground cities in the southern highlands of Peru hundreds of years ago? Some ancient astronaut theorists suggest that not only are extraterrestrials working with the government, they have infiltrated society at the highest levels.
One of the other theories in the field of ufology is that the reptilian presence is actually active today, and that they've concealed themselves by taking more of a human form, but have infiltrated many world governments or top world positions. We have to wonder if there isn't some type of an agenda once again taking place where they're letting their presence be known.
Might the stories of reptilians hiding amongst us be true? And if so, to what end? Some believe that not only are they trying to influence the course of humanity, they are creating a superior species of human-alien hybrids. Hove, England, 2008. In the middle of the night, 20-year-old Charmaine de Rosario Sage is sleeping in bed when she awakens to a frightening sight: a reptilian humanoid staring down at her.
I woke up. A reptilian came into the room. We went to an underground cave. There was a group of reptilians there, and they stood around me in a circle. Each one of them put one hand on my body, and I slowly changed. And it was the most amazing, but also sort of bizarre situation to look down at your body and see it morph from your human form into a reptilian form. To see the skin shift from being smooth into scales, and to find that I had a tail.
Could Charmaine's incredible story be true? Was she really transformed into a reptilian human hybrid? Charmaine claims she learned from her abductors that all humans today are some more than others.
At certain points in our history, different ET races have come to this planet, and they have not manipulated all of humanity, but certain groups.
The reason and agenda for alien intelligences to be on this planet manipulating humans and animals is because there are wars out there between different types of intelligences about territory, and that those territorial wars involve populations of created and manipulated life.
If reptilian extraterrestrials have inhabited Earth for thousands of years, are they content to continue hiding out underground? Or is the day fast approaching where they will step out of the shadows and announce their presence once again?
The Christians are waiting for the return of Jesus. The Jews are waiting for the return of the Messiah. The Islamic community is waiting for the return of Muhammad. The idea of this return did not originate, but it in fact originated with the promise by extraterrestrials that they would return in the future.
Tradition tells us that the army of the Messiah is not to come from heaven, but is to arise from inner earth. And therefore, dominate the surface world.
Perhaps we are now at this special turning point in our history and the timeline of planet Earth where the reptilians and the other extraterrestrials will announce themselves.
Could evidence of secret underground cities, combined with recent accounts of encounters with so-called reptilian creatures, be preparing us to accept a profoundly different genetic truth than the one we have been taught? That mankind didn't only evolve from a race of primates, but also from a race of reptiles, whose genes were spliced into our own by means of extraterrestrial manipulation. If true, such a revelation would revolutionize everything we have come to believe about our existence on this planet. But it may also lead about mankind's past, but about